nakaantala po. Meron lang talagang technicalities at legalidad na kailangan nating sundin. Pagkatapos po na mailabas po ng COMELEC ang kanilang desisyon, kaagad naman po nating sisimulan yung pag-credit na naman uli.
Another transport group, Pasang Mazda, tells CNN Philippines it understands the setback. But as fuel prices remain high, they are reviving the call to increase the minimum fare from 9 pesos to 14 pesos in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Southern Tagalog.
Kala natin magbabago ng presyo ng petroleum product in a month time. Subalit, nakita natin yung paggalaw sa pagdaigdig ng merkado ay talagang hindi very volatile ang presyo kanya. Yun ang aming pagbinigay, pinatuloy ko natin.
The LTFRB confirms it has set another hearing in May. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
The 500 peso monthly ayuda President Duterte promised poor households will run for 6 months. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez says advance payments for cigarette tax stamps will partly fund the 41 billion pesos needed for 6 months' worth of cash subsidies. Dominguez explains at least one cigarette company promised to pay the tax to the tune of 10 billion pesos.
Even the cigarette companies, we've asked them to pay in advance, and they have responded. One company gave 10 billion. Yes, not gave. They advanced the purchase of the cigarette stamps. Let's say their inventory for cigarette stamps is on the average 7 billion. So sabi ko, you have the 7 billion plus 10 more for one company. The other one, I think, is about 7 or 8 cigarette stamps. They had give it to us, and they just bought in advance.
Mr. Duterte last month ordered the department to more than double the unconditional cash transfers from 200 to 500 pesos to help the poor cope with costly fuel and goods. Acting Budget Secretary Tina Rose Canda previously said the financial assistance would only be good for 3 months, with funding to be sourced from excess revenues collected from dividends remitted by state-owned corporations and from the value-added tax on oil. Tragedy in Navotas City earlier today. One person died and more than a dozen others rushed to the hospital following an ammonia leak incident. Paige Javier joins us now. Paige, tell us what happened.
Pia, it was deja vu for residents of Barangay and BBS Kaunlaran following another leak at Magsimpan Ice Plant. Just last year, a leak was also reported in the same plant right behind me here in Navotas City. The plant has been closed pending completion of the necessary requirements. Around 3 this morning, residents had to evacuate due to the foul smell and threat of ammonia exposure. The LGU shut the plant while the investigation is ongoing and while it has not yet been declared safe.
Sinasabi ho sila na isang parte ho ng cooling system na siyatawag pong relief valve na baka ho naging defective. At ito ho yung dahilan kung bakit ho nagkaroon ng gas leak. Ito ho ay hindi pa official na result ng report.
The city's disaster office says this is the third ammonia leak incident in the plant in the past 2 years. 14 residents rushed to the hospital have returned home, while the cause of death of the lone casualty is still being determined. The nephew of the 49-year-old victim recounted his uncle's last moments.
Lahat ng tao dito, as in lahat, walang natira. Nagtatakbuhan na lang kami. So siguro nagpanik na rin yung chewing ko na siyempre may sakit sa puso. Iniiwasan makaamoy ng ammonia. So yun, yung hindi na talaga niya kaya.
Ammonia is a chemical compound used as a refrigerant to make ice. Navotas is known as a largely fishing community, and these plants provide ice for them to preserve their catch. Pia.
Paige, will there be penalties for the ice plant?
Pia, we asked that earlier, and authorities cannot determine that as of now. They say they still have to meet with the plant's management, which there's also no date when this meeting will take place. They're also looking at the compliance requirements to see if there were indeed violations committed by the plant's management. The Navotas LGU is also looking into possibly reviewing the zoning of the city to see if there can be restrictions on where ice plants should be located to ensure the safety. Authorities say the Magsimplan plant has been around for at least 10 years and that there are also safety checks being conducted regularly. But the casualty's nephew appeals to the plant's owner.
Ang tagal na niyan dyan. Almost simula sanggol pa lang ako, nandyan na yan eh. Ang may advice ko lang sa may-ari ng planta, ano na lang po, lipat na lang or kung pwede, i-renovate na lang nila. Kasi hindi po tayo safe eh.
We're still reaching out to the management of the plant to get their side of the story, but we have yet to receive a response. Also, earlier, we saw personnel of the Bureau of Fire Protection enter the plant as well as a truck, but we're still awaiting more details on this or any development on their probe. Pia.
Paige Javier there reporting. More students will finally be back in school after over 2 years of studying from home, away from their classmates and teachers. Education officials are putting up safeguards to ensure the safe return to in-person classes. Chrissy Di Matulak tells us students cannot wait to experience the fun in learning in the classroom again.
Robin and Samuel share the same household. During daytime, their living area becomes a mini classroom as they both attend their online classes. Robin teaches English to grade school and high school students. With the looming resumption of face-to-face classes, she says she's more than ready to once again see her students in the flesh.
Mas madali mo kasi talagang mai-apply doon sa bata pag kailangan mo ng added na strategy to help the child understand and learn sa mga lessons nila everyday.
Samuel, on the other hand, is a high school student at the same school where Robin teaches. He says online school was fun at first because he was able to spend more time at home. But now he looks forward to physically spend time with his classmates.
Yes, handa na po at makikita ko na po yung mga kaklase ko po sa teacher po kasi po fully vaccinated na po ako po.
With most of the country now under the lowest COVID-19 alert status, the government plans to expand face-to-face classes to more than 17,000 schools nationwide. The Education Department says online classes will still continue to avoid overexposing students to the virus.
Ang mundo ay hindi naman 100% face-to-face. Ang mundo umiikot din sa technology, umiikot din sa ibang pamamaraan to communicate. Kaya yung ating mga bata, ihahanda natin para dyan.
With more schools gearing up for face-to-face classes after the May polls, the Health Department assured the public that the country is ready in case of another surge.
We are prepared for that. You must remember our vaccination coverage is quite substantial now. No, it's about 74% of our target population of 90 million Filipinos are already vaccinated. So you cannot compare this year to year 2020 and 2021 because our vaccination coverage is much higher, more substantial.
DepEd recognizes the pandemic has left a permanent mark on the learning system in the country, forcing both teachers and students to adapt. The agency also says before face-to-face classes resume, many teachers hired during the pandemic are being retrained for back-to-school operations. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
As the country prepares for the new normal, one expert is not ruling out the possible entry of the Omicron XE subvariant. Infectious diseases specialist Dr. Edsel Salvania says the hybrid of two Omicron subvariants, BA1 and BA2, is seen to spread 10% faster than the original BA2.
May na-report na isang case sa Thailand. Now, itong mga recombinants na to, kung meron silang survival advantage, pwede silang lumaganap at kumalat sa iba't ibang places. There's always a possibility it can come in, but we don't expect it to be more severe and we don't expect it to dodge vaccines any worse than BA1 or BA2.
Salvania reminds the public to get boosted to increase immunity against Omicron XE, while the government is preparing to donate COVID-19 vaccines to Myanmar and Papua New Guinea. The Health Department checking which brands and how many doses will be given.
Mag-donate lang tayo nung kailangan nila at saka yung sa tingin naman natin, maaari nating itulong. But not all the excess stockpiles will be provided. And also, it's really not proper that we call it excess, no? Kung sakali, no? Meron ho tayong ititira because we still need it. Meron po tayong additional na doses na naandyan na maari po natin ibigay sa kanila as pagtulong sa mga bansang ito.
The donation comes as 27 million COVID-19 shots are set to expire in July. Coming up, in a few days' time, Filipino voters overseas can start casting their ballots, but some say the government is not ready for the absentee voting. And Converge ICT Solutions formalizes its entry into Asia's first professional basketball league. Details next here on CNN Philippines.
Conquering the universe was the ultimate, but there's more. Dahil tinawag ko ako ng Panginoon for a major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako 4th runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Sa dami ng taong nakalipas, salamat dahil hindi niyo kami iniwan. Dahil sa inyong tulong, mas naging maayos ang akala namin nakalimutan na. Basta't nariyan kayo, alam naming hindi mapapabayaan ang aming paghihirap para sa sarili, sa pamilya, sa kapwa, at sa bansa. Kampante kami, basta't kasama kayo.
You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. A check on the weather first. A rainy night still for Metro Manila with a low pressure area and the shear line seen to bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers in the region. It is the same situation for Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol, Visayas, and Mindanao. Cloudy skies with rains will be felt in Cagayan Valley, while the rest of Luzon will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated light rains. The LPA was last spotted 260 kilometers east-northeast of Davao City. Pag-asa says it has low chances of developing into a storm in the next 24 hours. The Commission on Elections says it is all systems go for overseas absentee voting, which begins this weekend. But are the preparations for the month-long voting process amid the COVID-19 pandemic enough? Tristan Nadalo reports.
Some overseas Filipino workers are sounding the alarm over what they describe as late preparations on the part of the Philippine government for the absentee voting period. An OFW group in Hong Kong laments the lack of coordination with the Filipino communities, with their situation made more complicated by the surge in COVID-19 cases.
Sana nasasabi agad ang mga bara o kung may problema. At syempre, nai-inform din namin yung aming mga members at yung iba pang mga OFWs. So, at napaghahandaan ng mga parties dito yung ilang mga matters regarding sa mga volunteers such as poll watchers at iba pa. Dahil din dun sa delay at kawalan ng public information, bulag na bulag yung communities.
Filipinos in Saudi Arabia fear that not all of them can cast their vote during the absentee voting period starting this weekend.
May tatlong centers lang of precinct ang voting centers ang meron sa Saudi Arabia. May mga areas, may mga lokasyon na kailangan pang magbiyahe ng 12 oras para lang makaboto via land.
COMELEC data show that there are close to 1.7 million registered overseas absentee voters for the May elections. Majority of them are in the Middle East and Africa, followed by the Asia-Pacific region. According to the advocacy group Right to Know, Right Now Coalition, despite the number of registered voters, low turnout can be expected due to several factors.
We feel that because the budget cut is significant, this might affect how effective the rollout of the overseas voting. Some will have to fly. That will mean missing a day's work. So some of these things. The other one, of course, this comes at the heels of the pandemic, where mobility was highly limited, and where even in some areas, even the operations of our diplomatic posts at times were limited.
Despite the limitations, the poll body says they have sent all the election paraphernalia to various posts abroad. Embassy and consulate personnel have also been trained to facilitate the voting process. Allowances and honorarium for election staff have also been set aside amid a tight budget.
Ready na po tayo dahil 100% na po natin nadidispatcha yung lahat po ng mga gamit na gagamitin nila magmula sa vote counting machines at saka doon sa mga balota. At the same time, yung mga iba pa mga election paraphernalia at yung ating mga post, ang ating mga embahada at konsulada kung saan gagawin yung mga botohan ay handang-handa na rin. Lalong-lalo na yung mga staff po natin.
Some groups call for budget augmentation for overseas absentee voting. They also call on the government to ensure overseas Filipinos will have the means to take part in this crucial exercise of democracy. Overseas voters can only vote for national positions such as president, vice president, senators, and party list group. The voting period will be from April 10th to May 9th. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo has endorsed presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Sara Duterte. Arroyo, who's running for re-election and is unopposed as 2nd District Representative of Pampanga, asked Kapampangans last Monday to support the tandem, saying the vice presidential bet's father, President Duterte, provided help to the province. But despite endorsements from big political names and high survey rankings, Sara Duterte is not yet confident she and Marcos will win the elections.
Confidence, wala po yan dahil we are always running scared. Yan po dapat ang mindset namin dahil hindi po natin, wala pong kasiguraduhan ang pagkapanalo until na-proclaim ka po.
A fisher group holds a parade at a fish port in Rizal Province in support of Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Pamalacaya says the fishing sector's demand to uphold Manila's sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea and to protect Filipino fishermen in the territory are some of the reasons they are backing the tandem. Pangilinan says while he acknowledges the need for more water sources, the construction of the Kaliwa Dam should not disregard laws and the rights of communities that will be affected. He says the government should not rush the Chinese-funded agreement worth more than 12 billion pesos, adding the project might end up like the government's allegedly anomalous deal with Farmally if not properly studied. The Kaliwa Dam will traverse the provinces of Quezon and Rizal and is expected to deliver 600 million liters of water per day to Metro Manila and nearby provinces. A volunteer group for Manila Mayor Isko Moreno calls on presidential candidates to sacrifice and give way to one aspirant who will go up against survey frontrunner Bongbong Marcos. The group, named Isko Moreno Volunteers, urges candidates to rally behind the most winnable contender based on credible data. You can catch my interview with the head of the Isko Moreno Volunteers, Tim Orbos, later in Politics as Usual at 8 in the evening. We'll also be speaking to Moreno's campaign strategist, Lito Banayo. See you then. Now, the Finance Secretary reiterating that the Bureau of Internal Revenue is still working on collecting the unpaid taxes from the heirs of former President Ferdinand Marcos. Carlos Dominguez also says the BIR is still determining the exact amount due.
There are several amounts that have been floated around. There was the amount of originally, I think, 9 billion, and then it became 23 billion, and then now because of penalties and interest, it's now, they say, around 203 billion. This has a long history, okay? This history goes back to when the estate actually was created, when former President Marcos passed away, and it has been encrusted with a lot of court cases. And my understanding from the Bureau of Internal Revenue is that they are trying to cut through all these issues in order to do the job.
Former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile has come to the Marcos family's defense. He says the issue is just purely political, nearly a month before the May 9 elections. Still on Newsnight, we meet the Converge Fiber Xers, the telco company's team at the Philippine Basketball Association. And the K-pop group Big Bang drops its first track in 4 years. Stay tuned.
Never-changing signature taste, exciting flavors, and kilig. Dunkin' knows exactly how to make our hearts burst with indulgence.
Nothing like Dunkin', pasalubong ng bayan.
Seguridad ang pundasyon ng isang progresibong bansa. Ito'y nasimulan noon at ngayon ating itutuloy sa Senado. Katahimikan, laban sa anumang banta at mabilisang serbisyo para sa mga tao. Ito ang susi ng pag-asenso upang ang mga negosyo lumago at bawat Pilipino'y magkatrabaho. Yan ang paglalabang ko. Libo Teodoro sa Senado.
Ang mga residente ay stranded pa rin.
Lahat halos ng mga bahay dito ay sira.
Lampas tao na yung tubig.
Overnight thinking, binantayan din natin ang sitwasyon.
A portion of the Arten Bridge here in Navotas was destroyed.
Nakikita sa likod ko ngayon, malakas na yung agos ng Banano River.
Talagang nagbuhos ng napakatinding ulan.
Ang resulta, lagpas taong taas ng baha.
Gabi takot na po kami. Ilang minuto lang po na ang taas na po ng tubig.
Merong mga outsiders na nananamantala.
Wala pa nga rin daw tumutulong sa kanila.
Kahit yung mga bahay dito sa paligid, lubog na sa baha.
Welcome back. A new team is ready to take the PBA by storm beginning the next season in June. Converge announced its squad will go by the name Converge Fiber Xers in an official launch today. The telco company acquired the storied franchise of Alaska following 35 PBA seasons. The new team is said to have familiar faces led by former Alaska head coach Jeff Carriazo and star guard Jeron Teng. Ex-PBA Commissioner Chito Salud makes his return to the league as team governor.
Higitan pa namin ng aming effort to entertain more our Alaska fans. Higitan in terms of trainings, mga players ng medyo magagaling. So, yung coaching, yung exercise, yung practice, padadagan namin to make sure we be being competitive in this field.
Dennis wants a young team. He wants a fast team that can shoot the three.
In the UAAP, the UE Red Warriors suffered another loss in its first game this season without head coach Jack Santiago. The FEU Tamaraos topped the Red Warriors 88-74. UE has yet to score a season 84 win and has to go without Santiago until its next match. He was suspended after telling players to harm UP's Richie Rivero in a previous game. On the other hand, will the Ateneo Blue Eagles keep their winning streak going? The Blue Eagles are facing the NU Bulldogs 7 p.m. at the Mall of Asia Arena. Today also marks the first time in 2 years that UAAP games have a live audience. Heading overseas, rapper Kanye West drops out of one of the world's biggest music festivals, Coachella. West was set to headline the event along with Billie Eilish and Harry Styles. A source close to the artist says he didn't want to take the stage amid his divorce from Kim Kardashian. Multiple sources also saying West's performance at the Grammy Awards was canceled. He didn't show up, but he did win 2 Grammys. New releases in K-pop, Big Bang's highly anticipated comeback single Still Life is Here. The veteran K-pop group last dropped music 4 years ago because the artists completed their mandatory military service. This is also Big Bang's first song as a quartet, with a member retiring from music in 2019. Take a listen. EXO fans have a lot to be excited about too, with vocalist Suho dropping his second mini-album, Grey Suit. This also came with an emotional music video for its rock ballad title track. Suho came out with his first solo EP in March 2020 called Self-Portrait. What's new in movies and TV? A spin on a sci-fi classic and a film about something that may not be about science fiction for long. CNN's David Daniel tells us all about them on the Hollywood Minute.
This is your captain. Our mission. To chart the stars.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds is beaming down to Paramount Plus. Set on board the Starship Enterprise before the Captain Kirk era, the series stars Anson Mount as Captain Christopher Pike, Rebecca Romaine as Number One, and Ethan Peck as Mr. Spock. The new Trek begins May 5th.
With meat consumption expected to double by 2050, we urgently need solutions. Welcome to the next agricultural revolution.
Jane Goodall narrates Meet the Future. That's MEAT. The documentary follows the pursuit of growing real meat from animal cells without needing to breed, raise, and slaughter animals. Goodall says it would reduce water and land use, methane, animal suffering, and future viral outbreaks. Meet the Future debuts Tuesday on digital platforms. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that is it for now. Join me again on Politics as usual at 8 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Berto po, nagsasaka para mapakain ng pamilya. Sa halalan, huwag niyo kong kalimutan.
Rina po, contractual worker sa fast food. Sa halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Ako si Nila, labandera, nagsisika para sa pag-aaral ng mga anak. Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Sa halalan, huwag natin sila kalimutan. Paalala ng Ad Standards Council, Ad Foundation, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
DYKB Radio Ronda!
Ngayong isa-isa nang nagsusulputan ang mga kakandidato sa 2022 elections, panahon na para kilalanin ang mga pagpipilian ng mga botante. Isa sa inaasahang tatakbong senador ang kilalang TV presenter na si Raffy Tulfo. Matapos ang higit 2 dekadang career sa broadcast, nagpaalam si Tulfo sa kanyang public service program. Formal siyang naghain ng COC nitong weekend. Matatandaang nanguna si Tulfo sa pinakabagong senatorial survey ng Pulse Asia. Noong Hunyo, nasa pang-4 siya sa ranking ng senatorial preferences, kasunod ni na Senator Pacquiao, Mayor Isko at Mayor Inday Sara. Pero sa kasunod na Pulse Asia survey nitong Setyembre, naungusan na ni Tulfo ang ibang tinitingnang posibleng kakandidato. At kaugnay niyan, makakapanayam natin ngayon. First time niya dito sa CNN Philippines, si senatorial aspirant Raffy Tulfo. Good evening. Okay lang ba? Is it okay if I call you Raffy or would you like Mr. Tulfo?
Okay lang. Yeah. Raffy is okay. Raffy. Good evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Rafi, for joining us tonight. So, wow, you tied with Alan Cayetano ranking 1 to 2 sa Pulse Asia, September 6 to 11. And then, like we said earlier, no, yung June survey, ranking nyo is 3 to 6. What do you attribute this to? Is it your, some people say your brand of public service, your brand of justice, getting things done, your, popularity dahil kilala ka, no? You're a TV personality.
Pangalawa lang siguro, PA, yung popularity, I think it's more of yung tiwala ng taong bayan sa akin, yung tiwala ng mga tao na malapit sa akin para idulog ang kanilang mga problema na mabilis ko naman na-actionan. So, hindi natin pwedeng lukuhin yung mga tao. Alam naman talaga nila kung ano yung taong nagsisilbi sa kanila ng tunay o nagsisilbi-silbihan lamang. In my case, nakita nila na talagang merong sincerity ako sa pagbigay ng solusyon sa kanilang mga problema, sa pagpakinig sa mga idinudulog nila sa akin.
Okay, so parang the idea that you get things done, yung tinatawag na brand of justice of Rafi Tulfo, is that it?
Yeah, another thing that I would like to point out, Pia, kasi RTIA is a product of a broken system in government. Marami kasi mga maling sistema na hindi maganda na nangyari sa gobyerno. Kaya yung mga tao, sawang-sawa na pagod na sa kalalapit sa mga gobyerno, sa mga taga-gobyerno na pinaikot-ikot lamang sila, that's why they come to me. Now, kung maayos sana ang pamamalakad ng ating mga taga-gobyerno, hindi na nila kailangan ng RTIA, hindi na nila kailangan ako.
Okay. It seems to be na parang you're so focused on that, na para bang ang gusto mong gawin is to help people, to get them the justice they deserve as far as you're concerned, to address their needs right away. Is this something that you will do, that yung gagawin mong batas? What are you going to do to, like you said, kasi you want to help people, you want to protect them. So what is it as a senator that you can do for them if you do get elected?
Okay, thank you, Pia, for that question. Now, ang advocacy ko ay tatlo, Pia. Ito yung araw-araw na mga problema na inkwentro ng aking action center na nakakausap ko na binibigyan solusyon, OFW, labor, and family. So, dyan talaga magiging center ng aking advocacy, ng aking legislation to make sure na darating yung time na yung RTIA ay hindi na kailangan. Kumbaga maging paso na because nakapagpasa na ako before the end of my term kung papalarin na mga komprehensibong mga legislation that would really solve all these problems na inilapit sa akin na mga complainants ng OFW, labor, and family.
Alam mo, Rafi, syempre yung candidacy mo or yung magiging candidacy mo and you're having filed a COC and you yourself as a personality, you are not without controversy. You're a very controversial guy. There are a lot of people who say good things about you. There are a lot of people who say bad things about you also. And I'm sure you know that, no? And then lately, napapansin ko, if you search your name on social media, there's a lot there about people canceling you. Alam mo na yun, di ba? Yung kina-cancel ka, yung nag-unsubscribe sa YouTube channel mo. What is that all about?
Okay, well, first of all, yung pag-unsubscribe nila, yan, Pia, ay isang option sa YouTube na available doon sa mga tao na ayaw na mag-subscribe sa isang channel for whatever reason. So I think these people are just practicing that option or using that option. Now, nagkaroon kasi ng misinformation tungkol sa nasabi ko sa isang pronouncement ko sa aking programa. Pinag-aaway lang ako nitong mga taga-DDS na dati naman, member din ako ng DDS. Siguro hindi na nagustuhan ang tutunay talaga nilang reason kung bakit. I think it's not about ABS-CBN. I think it's about they thought me running against the president as VP ni Senator Manny Pacquiao na hindi naman totoo. At doon nag-umpisa yung galit nila, doon nag-umpisa yung pagbabash nila, doon na nag-umpisa yung pagpapakalat nila ng mga maling impormasyon.
Okay. All right. I have a few questions, Rafi, before we go to a break. No, of course, pag senador ka, hindi ka naman part ng executive branch of government, and therefore you cannot really run government, and you will be able to implement policy, for example. But of course, the biggest question today is how the next administration, how the legislature in the next administration will be handling or will want to see the health crisis handled differently. Because of course, ang pinag-usapan, balancing lives and livelihood and lockdowns. So, how do you want to see the health crisis, the pandemic managed better?
Okay, let's talk about the future, Pia. Sa ngayon, nakikita natin marami mga maliliit na kumpanya, small business and medium enterprises na nagsarahan. Kasi yung ating economy ngayon, if you remember, if you know, na based on what we call is yung consumer-based economy. Yan ay dahil umaasa, nakasandal yung ating ekonomiya sa mga remittances ng ating mga OFW. At nakikita mo naman, marami sa ating mga OFW na papauwi na. So, pag ako'y nasa Senado, I will introduce legislation na para magkaroon tayo ng konting shift going to a production-based economy. At ano yung production-based economy? Napakayaman piya ng ating bansa sa natural resources. Nandiyan yung coconut, nandiyan yung cacao, sugar, banana, and so many other agri-products na bakit natin hindi i-develop yan. So I would come up with legislation na to encourage companies, corporation na mag-invest sa ganitong klaseng endeavor, corporate incentive, tax incentive na mabibigyan sila. That way it will generate employment and at the same time it will generate revenue for our country.
Corruption, of course, systemic. It's like a given already dito sa Pilipinas. What would be, again, syempre, lawmaker ka, no? But what kind of strategies would you like to see the next administration to really combat corruption? Yung parang matapos na talaga ito. And would you, for example, in the future, merong erring official, no? Would you like to see them reappointed or would you like to see them fired?
Well, of course, I would like to see them fired. First of all, I would like transparency in government. Yan kasi naiinkwento ko ngayon na problema even in my line of work kapag ako'y tumatawag sa mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno para ilapit yung tulong ng mga lumalapit sa akin, mga kababayan natin, walang transparency. Nagtatago sila. Kuminsan, pag tinatanong ko, bakit hindi na-action itong problemang ito, tinatago nila. Ayaw niyan sabihin kasi sinasabi nila, kailangan pa sabihin sa mas nakakataas. Yung pala, yung mas nakakataas, may utos sa kanila na wag magsalita dahil may nangyari ng kabalastugan. So when I get there sa Senate, then I will introduce legislation na magkaroon ng transparency in government, more transparency.
Can you specify exactly how that's going to happen? Like what kind of a bill would allow more transparency in government?
Sa ngayon kasi, halimbawa, meron tinatawag na privacy data law na hindi ka pwedeng manghimasok sa mga pamamalakad o ginagawa ng mga taga-gobyerno because they will always say that to you na bawal yan. Hindi naman sinasabi sa batas. Example, SALN. Ngayon, isang may usapin yan na hindi pwedeng ilabas yung SALN, sa President, Vice President, at kung sino-sino pang matataas na opisyal sa ating gobyerno, at mismo yung ombudsman nagsabi niya na bawal. Bakit bawal? Pag inanungkulan ka sa gobyerno, dapat ready ka na i-open ang iyong SALN, i-open ang iyong kayamanan. Nung pumasok ka, dapat ito yung pera ko. Ngayon, nasa palagitnaan ng pagservisyo ko, ito pa yung pera ko. Paglabas ko, ito pa yung pera ko. Na kapag pasok mo, ito yung pera mo. Paglabas mo, ang laki ng pera mo, then there's something wrong. So dapat there's transparency. Dapat yung SALN ng kahit sino man, mula presidente hanggang sa pinakamababang ranggo ng elected officials sa ating gobyerno, dapat ilantad yan sa publiko. Dapat nakikita ng publiko yung kayamanan ng mga taga-gobyerno.
Alright, well, nasagot mo na yung isang yes or no question natin, Ma'am Hengkot. But we have other questions for you. Raffy Tulfo, please stand by. Like I said, marami pa kaming pag-uusapan ni Senatorial Aspirant Raffy Tulfo. Abangan yan dito lang sa news.ph. We'll be right back. Rafi.ph sa CNN Philippines. Kasama pa rin natin ang batikang broadcaster at senatorial aspirant, the very controversial Rafi Tulfo. I was about to say Erwin. Yung kapatid niya kasi, naging co-anchor ko for a long time. But anyway, Rafi, before we go to the yes or no questions, just one last question. Yung yes or no pala mamaya, yes or no lang, you cannot explain. So, syempre, one of the most controversial programs of the Duterte administration, itong drug war, no, the anti-drug war. Are you in favor, in the next administration, are you in favor of another ironclad, no-nonsense anti-drug policy? You know, would you fight the war on drugs the same, or would you want to see the war on drugs fought the same way it was fought during this administration?
No.
No.
Yes.
What's that? No?
Yes, no. Kasi marami na mamatay.
So, no, it's okay. Hindi naman yes or no question yan. You can explain. You can explain muna. So, you're saying na hindi pwedeng ganon ulit.
Kasi dapat this time magkaroon ng due process. Dapat ma-observe natin yung karapatang pantao ng kahit sino man, whether he's a suspect or whether he's a criminal. Meron din karapatan siya. At lalong-lalo na, wag dapat siyang pinapatay. At kung meron man problema sa isang addict, meron naman tayong mga tinatawag na rehabilitation centers na pwede natin sila iparehab.
Okay. Alright. So you're saying para bang we should take a medical approach also. It's a public health approach din dapat. Ganun ba?
Yes. Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, Pia, pag na-identify lang ang isang taong gumagamit ng droga, kahit na hindi pa, delikado, nakakatakot, baka merong mangyari na sa taong yun. Why don't we focus instead more on yung sa health issue, sa rehabilitation? Why don't we focus on that? How to treat these addicts na para magkaroon pa silang pag-asa magbago sa kanilang buhay, para sa kanilang pamilya.
Okay. Interesting to hear you say that. Okay, eto na yung mga yes or no questions. Like I said kanina, the question about the SAL-N, you already jumped into that earlier. So there are a few other yes or no questions. Again, like I said, no explanation, yes or no. Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution?
Yes.
Do you favor the reimposition of death penalty, the death penalty for drug-related crimes?
No. Can I add a little bit? Because only the poor are the ones who are convicted. Because the rich people, they get away with it most of the time. Pag may pera ka, natatakasan mo. Pag yung pulubi na walang pera, yun talagang palagi nadidiin. Yun palagi ang nabibiktima. Well, not really victim. Sila talaga yung palaging nakukulong. Kahit na walang kasalanan, nakukulong sila. At sila yung nabibitay.
Okay.
Add a little bit.
Alright.
Meron and even in abroad, marami sa mga nasa death row at yung iba na sentensya at nabitay na later malaman-laman na inosente pala sila. Yan, Amerika yan na with all the technologies that they have and the kind of investigation that they have, still nakakalusot pa rin doon sa butas ng justice system nila na nakukonvict ang isang inosente at nalalagay sa death row. Just imagine dito sa Pilipinas, country tayo, we're way behind when it comes to investigative system. So, just think about that. Ruby palagi ang nakukulong. Yung mga yaman, nakakalusot.
Well, yeah, that's true. No, we have a lot of yung tinatawag na wrongful convictions also. This next question, although, President Duterte has said he's not running for VP, but, well, we never know yet. But the question is, again, yes or no lang ang sagot. Should a sitting president be allowed to run for vice president in the next election? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes. Do you favor resuming peace talks with communist rebels? Yes or no?
Yes.
Should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And my final question before I let you go, Rafi, and then before you give us some final words, no. You have a party list group, yung ACT CIS party list group. Your wife is one of the nominees, and together with Eric Yap, right? So,
right.
tatakbo ulit syempre ang Act CIS, and then if you do get into the Senate, it's like para bang marami kayo, kumbaga, no, in elective office. What do you think of, syempre maraming batikos pag ganoon, senador, sa isang pamilya may senador, may congressman, may mayor, may party list, ganoon. What do you think of all of that?
Pia, ganito yan eh. Why shouldn't we let the people decide kung payag ba sila na senador ako at yung wife ko congresswoman, na kung ayaw na nila na magkaroon ng dalawang tulfo sa politics, then wag nilang iboto ang isa sa amin or wag nilang iboto kahit na sino sa amin. Now, if they think na magiging capable kami, magawa namin yung aming trabaho na maayos para sa kabuti ng ating bayan at mamamayan, then vote for us. Ganun lang yun. Kailangan yung taong bayan ang mag-decide. Silang bahala mag-isip at mag-decide pagdating sa halalan kung kailangan bang iluklok ang katulad ko at kapamilya ko. It's all up to them.
Okay. And for my final question for you, Rafi, so right now, like we said, when we started, so ranking 1 to 2 ka sa survey, but this is the September survey, no? There's like how many months to go before the elections. So we don't really know how things will go, no? If you will still be within the top 12, hindi naman natin talaga alam, ano? What do you think, how are you going to feel if, for example, by some, stroke of, I don't know what, bad luck or something, biglang hindi ka, you don't make it, no? You don't get into the Senate. How would you feel about that?
Yun okay lang sa akin. So, ibig sabihin, ayaw ako ng mga botante at kung pagpipilitan ang sarili ko kung ayaw nila sa akin. So, no hard feelings.
Okay. Maraming salamat sa iyong oras. Rafi Tulfo, senatorial aspirant. Independent pala, no? Independent. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, Rafi.
Thank you for having me.
Susunod sa News.ph, Coronation Night sa Miss World Philippines 2021 na puno ng kontrobersiya. Ang buong kwento dito lang sa CNN Philippines.
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines.